Hey, everybody. Welcome to a Friday edition of Jackman Radio. We are joined today by the host of Naturalist Capitalist and the Four Horsemen, Mr. Reed Coverdale. Reed, how you doing, man?
I am doing great. It's hot, but I'm glad that the Aspen Institute has our best interests in mind, and they're going to figure out how to reduce global warming through some sort of regime change war. So that's exciting.
Yeah, I mean, the munitions and the bombs and the crafts that they use, not only are they painted in rainbow colors in honor of Pride Year, they're going to moving it from month to year for 2023. But when those rainbow bombs are dropped, they give off a really nice emission that actually reduces carbon on the target. So not only do they reduce the target to like a little bit of carbon, it reduces all the carbon into less carbon. So it's pretty miraculous when you see it, you know?
It is. I actually, I guess this isn't surprising now, but at the time, it was surprising to me. I think in 2020, I got into an argument with some progressive on Twitter who was saying that we need to support Saudi Arabia in order to work with them to reduce emissions. And I was thinking like, well, if you genocide the Houthis out of existence, then I guess that, that makes, or not the Houthis. If you genocide the Houthis out of existence, I guess you are reducing carbon emissions. So that makes sense.
Yeah, it's a complete anti-carbon campaign.
Yeah.
I think it's just a matter of looking at the bombs that are dropped. Like what each bomb is probably $1 million or $500,000 or whatever it costs, and give the contract to Raytheon. And the Aspen Institute actually has a lot of funding from the Rockefeller Foundation, the Ford Foundation, the Gates Foundation, as well as the Saudis. So it's a perfect conglomerate that's actually meeting as we speak today.
Can you imagine how much Bin Salman's like laughing at us? He's just like, these guys are so retarded. Like, they're so dumb.
Dude, the Saudis have successfully infiltrated like most parts of our culture. Like obviously this golf stuff I've been talking about a lot, the LIF thing that they're actually having at Bedminster in New Jersey at Trump's. Can you imagine Trump there? I'll let you guys come back, okay? Just make sure you bring me the sword, okay? When I left Jeddah last time, I didn't have that Saudi Arabian Aladdin sword that you gave me. But if you bring that, you can come here. I don't care if 700 people from New Jersey died on 9/11. I don't care about the family members protesting. Just bring me the sword. It's amazing.
At least with Trump, it was honest. It was like his picture with the ball of Saruman. That's just. It's honest. It's like, this is what the U.S.-Saudi relationship is all about. It's very Saruman-like. But now, like, this new globo homo thing where it's like, oh, yeah, we all care about gay rights. Saudi Arabia cares about gay rights. Like,
dude.
I don't know. But.
Yeah, I know. It's ridiculous. I mean, yeah, it's like you said, just be honest about it, man. We're not babies, Reed, okay? We know the world's a tough place with a lot of tough actors and a lot of tough cookies. A lot of corruption and bad stuff going on. And certainly there's stuff that happens in order for, people here in New Hampshire to have the lifestyle that we have. So we're not ignorant to that. But man, I don't know. Where do you draw the line when you're publicly talking about these issues and the connections that Saudi Arabia has with certain groups or certain moneyed interests? I mean, it's like, everyone bitches about China and the Chinese. The Saudis are, the family members said they're sports washing. So it's interesting to see and how people are responding to it.
Well, it's amazing because you've got the Republicans convinced that China is infiltrating our culture and our government. And then you've got the liberals convinced that Russia is hacking our elections and, infiltrating our society, where it is Israel and Saudi Arabia who are blatantly doing that all the time. And you get called a racist if you point that out for some reason. But I don't know, like all the institutions you were just talking about, and the Saudis are influential. And then obviously you have AIPAC and the whole Epstein debacle and everything. So it's so funny that they completely miss, where this is actually coming from. But.
Yeah, one of the speakers at this Aspen deal this week is Larry Summers, who was on Epstein's jet, actually. Was a buddy with Epstein, was the head guy at Harvard, and Epstein was going to cut him a check for like $30 million or something like that. And then, after the whole thing came out, he tried to downplay it. So as they all did. And another speaker, one of the headlining speakers, apart from Condoleezza Rice tonight, is Victoria Nuland. Miss Russia herself, Miss Kremlin, Miss
Yep.
Kremlin Ukraine herself. So it's the same old. It's like your episode with Robbie Martin. It's just the same old neocons, and they put different dressing on it and use different language, but it's really all about scaring people about the next 9/11 and all the fear for Russia that they're all going on about. You know?
Yeah. Well, you know what? You know what's amazing to me is like you get called an anti-Semite or like a terrorist sympathizer or, you know, pro-Islamist, or there's all these different tropes they throw at you where literally the opposite is true. Like I think Nazis are bad. I know that's a very brave thing to say, but I actually think like funding Nazis is bad. You know, like that is a kind of controversial thing to point out now. If you don't want to fund literal Nazis in Ukraine, then you're an anti-Semite. If you don't want to fund ISIS and Al-Qaeda, then you're a terrorist sympathizer. And if you don't want to ally with Saudi Arabia, who, you know, stones women in honor killings and throws gay people off of rooftops, then you're an Islamist sympathizer. So it's just all very backwards. It's like, no, actually, I think all those things are really bad and our government shouldn't be propping them up, and that we should be leading by example. You know, we should be a beacon of freedom in this world and trying to encourage other people through trade and through showing them what, you know, how successful our society is to want to be more like us. But, you know, we fail in that regard immensely. So,
yeah, we're doing a lot of mental gymnastics with all of those topics. And, you know, I think just the corporations putting their rainbow stripes on and doing the performance, you know, like someone like Nike. Meanwhile, they got the sweatshops going, but if they put like a nice rainbow flag or a Ukraine flag outside of the sweatshop, I consider they're good. They're covered. They don't need to make any other changes or pay their people more or anything like that.
Yeah, I'm assuming, I know you weren't brought up religiously, but you know Passover, where that story originates in the Old Testament?
I don't know all the details about it. No, what's the skinny on that?
So when the Israelites were enslaved by the Egyptians, and Moses came back and told Pharaoh, like, you need to let us go, and he wouldn't let them go. So then God sent 10 plagues. So it turned the Nile into blood and sent a bunch of locusts and flies and like all these different things. And then the 10th plague was the angel of death comes down and kills, I think, the firstborn in every household. And so what God told Moses to tell all the Israelites, kill a lamb and paint its blood on your door, you know, like on the sides of the door and the top of the door, just paint its blood on there. And the angel of death will pass over your household. So then the angel of death comes down and it kills the firstborn of all the Egyptians, but all the Israelites are protected because they've, you know, put the lamb's blood on their door. It's just like the gay flag. It's like the lamb's blood. So the angel of death, that's where Passover is, though. But the angel of death is, you know, the establishment lynch mobs, and the way you can protect yourself is by putting a Black Lives Matter or gay flag outside your door, and your business won't be destroyed or you won't get canceled. You know, it's
amazing. What do you think the next thing is going to be? Because we just saw yesterday or 2 days ago, Chappelle had a show in like Minneapolis or something like that, and there was, you know, a mob of people who were, I don't know how many there were, but it's described as a woke mob who was vandalizing buildings and you know, painting stuff on the side of the buildings and writing stuff to try and get his show canceled. And the theater acquiesced, and then I think they just moved it up the road, and he may have even sold more tickets. So it's kind of has the opposite effect I've really seen. And I think a lot of people are just like, you know, just laughing at it now. Like, I'm not going to give it any of my oxygen or energy, and it won't have any power.
Yeah, I mean, I think with these cultural swings, it's basically once the normies have enough of something, it starts to go the opposite direction. And I think we're reaching that point. We have to be. I mean, there is this thing called ESG, which Clint talked about at PorkFest. I know you were there for that speech, and that artificially controls it a little bit beyond popular demand. So even though people are sick of it because ESG is a thing, this is existing longer than it should. But I think even ESG is going to lose to market demand eventually, and they're gonna have to reassess, how they're doing things. Because I mean, in a way, like anti-BDS laws are sort of an ESG of the right. Like that's the only real example I can think of. Like you get like put out of business and the state comes after you if you don't support Israel, basically, in a lot of southern states, a lot of states all over the country, actually. But that's the only real example where I can think of that the right kind of does the same type of thing. But we looked at 20 years ago, like if you got canceled if you didn't agree with the Iraq war. Bill Maher, with what he said about 9/11, he got kicked off. Jesse Ventura got kicked off. All sorts of people were getting threats and everything. And now that we have social media much more widespread than we did back then, it's just way more effective and easier to deperson somebody if they disagree with you now than it was 20 years ago. But I suspect this is going to swing the other way because people are just so fed up with it. And that's when it started switching to the left from the right, like the satanic panic and Harry Potter being of the devil.
Yeah.
If you didn't agree with going into Iraq, you were a terrorist sympathizer. Eventually the normies got sick of that and were like, fuck this, like I'm just done with it. And so then things started to shift more left. So I think you're going to start seeing things shift more right again in the coming years. And I'm here for some of it. It's going to be fun. You know how it is. Like you and I never win. We never win any victories.
No, I don't think I've ever voted for a winning presidential candidate in my life.
So when we see,
I'm kind of proud about it.
When we see people freaking out and pulling their hair out, we enjoy it. It's like, even if we don't necessarily agree with the decision that's been made, like the Roe v. Wade thing, you just watch and sit back. And it's like, that's something that like I've gone back and forth on. I don't have a strong opinion on, but just watching people pull their hair out over it, it's just like, I know this is me all the time. What these people are going through with their disappointment is how I feel about everything. So the fact that they get punished occasionally is fun to watch. So you just got to sit back and enjoy the ride.
It's almost like the king says, I gloat over it. I like to see when bad people fail. Normies fail. I'm happy about it. It's definitely like that, Reed. Yeah, because if when you look at big picture issues for so long, and you see people just screaming at each other about wedge issues and issues that the powers that be kick up every 2 to 4 years during election cycles to get the left and the right screaming at each other and battling and just being shrill and running on emotion and not a lot of logic. That's what they want. They want all of us to be fighting each other and stuff that's never really going to be resolved, because even if abortion is illegal, you're still going to have abortion. I mean, it's not going anywhere. It's been, obviously they've ratcheted it up in the last couple months since that leak that they were going to possibly overturn Roe v. Wade occurred. But I think there should be a lot of anger at this aimed at the Democrats. Well, they couldn't get it done for their constituency, and it just further shows that not only do they don't care about their voters or their people or so-called constituency, neither party does, and it's just been borne out time and time again.
Oh yeah, totally. Like that's been the the rallying cry of both parties. Like, well, even if you don't like our candidate, you got to vote for them so that you get Supreme Court justices you like. How'd that work out for the Democrats? I guess the Republicans do have an argument with that now. Like, I guess, that this does kind of bolster their argument, but
yeah, it's the king's legacy.
Yeah. As far as the Democrats go, it's like, you guys have had control forever and you never did fucking shit about it. You could have codified Roe v. Wade and you never did. So you guys don't fucking care. But I feel like abortion, guns, climate change, immigration, these are issues they dangle in front of us. I mean, look at immigration. What has Joe Biden done differently than Trump? Like,
come on in.
Anything, So
yeah, no, Brandon is just he's using the cancer and the flu world order to cancel it out. Who knows what he's got going on, Yeah. But I mean, I remember seeing John McCain speak up at Keene State, where I went to college in 2006, and it was all about immigration. It was immigration, and they never did anything. No. I don't think they're not going to do anything about any of these issues. No. And until the real stuff can be addressed, like the money in politics and the corporate stranglehold, and the revolving door between the Pentagon and the private sector, until that's really dealt with, you're not really going to see anything, I don't think, come into play here. We got a couple chats. Let's see. We can do some response here.
Oh yeah, so Biden has COVID, cancer, and dementia.
Mike, the dementia has cancer and the cancer has COVID. So I just took a shot of some of Hunter's juice, and it cleared me right out.
So are we accelerationist enough to want Kamala Harris to be president? Is that a thing? Or
man, I don't. Yeah,
I'm here for the chaos, but also like terrified. So I don't really.
It would be so. I mean, yeah, the nihilist in me is definitely like, yeah, dude, I'll put a bumper sticker, Kamala 2022.
Yeah,
like now, give it to us now. Dude, it would be so bad. I mean, Joe is sick. He tested positive, but I'm pretty positive that he's negative because Jill was negative, and we have negative feelings about Russia. So vote for me. She's like,
she's worse than Hillary. Like,
I was just about to say, give me Hillary, dude.
God,
we got Galison. Jose Galison did an awesome stream on No Way Jose last night. Rewatching. Oh, Galison, so much heart. Galison really has a lot of heart. I think that's why, like, Beatles fans, Ringo is their favorite Beatle. Galison's my favorite Tower Gang because I see him.
Yeah.
I see him.
Well, I mean, I heard Jackman Radio Legal cleared his appearance. Isn't that the case? Like,
it's close. Yeah, it's just, we just met with Alan Dershowitz, and he just said I got to sign one more document, and
he kept his underwear on, right? Alan Dershowitz did.
I kept my underwear on. I got a massage from a 45-year-old woman named Olga. It's like, dude, Epstein didn't roll with anybody younger than 20, okay? And then that was like 20 was geriatric for him.
Exactly.
Brutally remastered. Sexy Victoria Newland, the Raquel Welch of tribalist warlord pinups. Oh,
wow.
That's a
good, I think that should be her bio on Twitter,
That's her handle, yeah.
Yeah.
Lover of regime change and Raquel Welch of tribalist warlord.
Love Fire Pixie.
Oh, Fire Pixie's tremendous. I love Fire Pixie's avatar too. It's very mysterious. Jay Lee, Comet. What do you mean? Just like Comet wipe everything out? What do you think?
Yeah, instead of Kamala, like that is, Comet is underrated because that is like the most equal platform you could ever have. Everyone will be the same. Everyone's talking about equity and equality. A Comet gives us that. If we're worried about climate change, like that wipes out those fears. Everything is, I mean, income inequality, all of it. Like it just kind of the homelessness problem, like lots of things. Just saying.
It solves it all across the board, doesn't it?
It does.
Libertarian podcast review. Jose is soft. Oh, I don't know. What do you think?
You better be reviewing this podcast, Tyler. Tyler. If you make it into the monthly podcast review, or I forget if it's weekly or monthly, that means you're really doing well. So
it means you're good.
Yeah, I don't know if Jackman Radio has been on the list yet, but
well, maybe after Monday. We're having a big guest on Monday from the World of Liberty. I'm going to tease it right now. We'll let you know towards the end of the podcast who that might be. But
stay tuned to find out who the big Liberty guest on Jackman Radio on Monday is.
It's going to be tremendous, quite frankly.
Must support Reed, absolutely. Go to toplobster.com.
Yeah, talk about the gear. Talk about that Nat Cap.
Yeah, well, let's see.
Horseman gear.
I'll share the screen with you here in a second. I have sold a lot of shirts. Apparently, I am the highest grossing T-shirt seller from toplobster.com. Should show up there now, I think.
The ones from Toad, the nude ones of Toad are not. Those don't really sell as much.
Yeah, it's mostly Nat Cap stuff. So these are all the designs. This is the new stuff. If you guys are Four Horsemen fans, definitely want to check these out. These have been good sellers. I think they've got small through 5XL now. Yeah.
Okay.
So
Liberty Midget to Liberty Giant.
Yeah, go check it out. And then they've got hoodies, Ringer T-shirts. I think this is still the most popular design. I sold the most of these, but then the Four Horsemen is second. And then there's this one too. I don't know how many of these have sold, but and then the dark logo you can get, and then the kind of rip off of Caterpillar. And I found out they can't sue me for this because cat is, this is just the NAT. The triangle isn't trademarked. It's cat with the triangle that's trademarked. So we're technically good.
So you're in the margins there. You're right in the margins.
Yeah, and I just also want to point out that imitation is the highest form of flattery. But yeah, go check out toplobster.com under the Naturalist Capitalist page. I'll drop a link to this in the live chat. But then also, he's got stuff for No Way Jose, Liberty Lockdown, Break the Cycle, and then he's Tower Gang, obviously, and then he's got all sorts of stuff. I mean, tons of all collections. He's got all sorts of stuff you can buy, all sorts of t-shirts, stickers, graphics, whatever.
Talented dude, man.
Go check it out. 100%.
Yeah. Top's a talented guy. He's good on the mic too. I think he's underrated on the mic in terms of his humor, and
he is.
His New York brogue. He's like, yeah, Brooklyn, yeah. I got to work on it a little bit, but it's definitely there a little bit.
Yeah.
All right, we got another Gala song coming through here. Tyler, I'm soft as a baby when it comes to family-related stuff. The aspect of Duncan being killed next to his pregnant girlfriend hits me hard. They were just beginning their path of being a family. Yeah, that story was heart-wrenching, man. Yeah. I caught most of that last night, Galasan. It was, it's sad to see. It's awful, the no knock and I mean, it's just so many topics that stem from that, but basically just it reminded me of how Fred Hampton was killed as well, back in the 60s. He was affiliated with the Black Panthers, I think, in Chicago. And the police basically just went into his apartment and just lit him up. He was in bed. I forget how many they fired into him, but
yeah,
it's been going on for a long time. So good on you, Jose, for highlighting that. Okay, a couple more chats here. Carmen Smith-Studer. Hey, Carmen. Good to see you. Fire Pixie. Does Brandon have cancer or COVID? See, that's a good. Yeah, he can have both, right?
Yeah.
He's like, yeah, I get cancer. I mean, I feel like I've seen a lot of people over the age of 80 who have a touch of dementia. They think everything's cancer. So I remember my grandfather saying that to me. He was in his 80s. He would point to his hand. He'd be like, "Barry, that's cancer." I'm like, geez, I hope not. But you never know. Fire Pixie. No.
I do have a Venmo. I see that question there. I need to, what do you publicly share so people can send you money anyways?
What, for Jackman Radio? You're saying for Venmo?
For me, for my Venmo. Like,
you have a Venmo?
I do.
I think you just do. Eric handles our Venmo. I think his is just Senator Jackman 86. I don't know. Maybe he'll put it in the chat. But for yours, yeah, I'm not sure what yours is. What your handle? I think it's just a handle.
Oh, okay. Mine is at Scott-Coverdale-1. I'll drop it. You can see if it works. I've never done this before. I'm gonna drop it in the chat. There we go.
Excellent.
You guys can try it. That is my first name, by the way. I know that makes me a Fed, but
here, let's. Eric said he put it in there too. Reed's Venmo. Okay, yeah, at Scott.
You guys got this down. You've got like a producer in Eric. He's like putting the comments into the live chat. I should be hiring my brother while he's downstairs with his foot snapped off. He could be doing this for me. But
right, his look at those hands. His hands still work, right? Get him on some good disco donuts. Get him going on the. So yeah, that's Reed's Venmo, and that I think like you said, that goes directly to your account. And of course, buy a shirt or a sweater or some kind of.
If you want to buy a shirt, wear it everywhere you can. Post pictures of it, and then people will ask. So
here's the Jackman Radio.
With a different tag because no one will know who that is. But.
Yeah, Scott's your glowy name, right?
True.
Yeah, that's your OKC glowy name, Scott McFay Coverdale. Just going back up here to someone. Loving the chats, guys. Really appreciate it. Oh, Eddie Grimm got one of the Four Horsemen shirts.
Awesome, dude.
Right on.
Those are, I met Ben's. Do you want to talk about Freedom Fest, or was there other
Yeah,
stuff?
I was going to ask you next. Thank you, Eddie Grimm. Appreciate that. I was going to ask you about your trip out to, now it was Nevada, right?
It was Nevada, yeah.
Okay. It wasn't, was it quite Vegas, or was it outside of Vegas?
It was Vegas. It was Vegas.
Okay.
It was fun. Let's see here. Hold on one second. So I went out to, it's funny because we're talking about Dave Chappelle getting canceled. I've got a little story about getting canceled myself a little bit. So went to Freedom Fest, ran a booth alongside Liberty Lockdown. It was good. It was fun. Got to see a lot of familiar faces: Larry Sharp, Nick Gillespie, Spike Cohen, Scott Horton. I'm missing people, but there are a lot of people I'd met before that I got to run into again. New faces. Let's see. I met Olivia Rondo's boyfriend, Patriot J, who I'd kind of interacted with a little bit, but never met in person. Got to meet Patrick McFarlane of the Liberty Weekly Show, Connor Freeman, and Keith Knight, and a bunch of guys from the Libertarian Institute, which were all great. If you guys got to go check out the Libertarian Institute, it's like the most important organization, and it's all like staunch anti-war people.
Nice.
Just really, really great people. Single issue, single issue people, coalition people who just like want to end the wars or whatever. So go check them out. And they also talk about other stuff, but war is like the really big thing. I got to see John Cleese live on stage with Nick Gillespie talking about, how stupid the left is now. They don't want to be offended. People just, this is all relevant to what's going on with Dave Chappelle. And then, so I found this out like a week or two before I went to Freedom Fest, but there's this libertarian named Jason Rink, who I've gotten to know. He's a super nice guy. I'm going to be streaming with him and Patriot J on Sunday at 3 p.m. And Jason Rink was going to screen a film about Nick Fuentes. And it wasn't like a supportive film. I watched this film. It was just kind of given an unbiased view of him and how he rose to popularity, and then about how he's been put on the no-fly list and kicked off of every platform imaginable and just canceled. It was called The Most Canceled Man in America, which I don't think Ryan's on the no-fly list. So even though Nick Fuentes is newer to being canceled, I think he might technically be more canceled in America than Ryan is. Not sure about that, but let the battle ensue over that. We should get them together on the Four Horsemen and duke it out. But I decided, so I got to finish the story. So he was going to screen this film, and then Freedom Fest announced that he was going to be screening the film and that Nick Fuentes was going to be there too, which Jason had never actually confirmed. And so then a bunch of people freaked out and were writing Freedom Fest. You can't have this guy Nick here. This is crazy. He's a Nazi, whatever, blah, blah, blah. And so they canceled the screening of the film, and they wouldn't even let Jason on the property anymore. They kicked him out of the hotel. He had a room reserved and everything. And then he went to Venetian, and people called and got him kicked out of the Venetian, apparently. And then he was going to try to screen this thing at several different theaters that I guess he got canceled out of some of those too. So he was just trying to find a place to screen this film. And I found out about this, and I was like, oh shit, that would be kind of cool to go to just to see what it's like. And then Patriot J showed up, and he was going. He was invited to it. So I was like, oh shit, can you get me in too? So then I talked to Jason Rink, and he got me in. He came and picked both of us up, and we went to see this film. Like I said, very good film. I got to meet Nick, and I took a picture with him. I'll share that right now so you can share that around. But took this picture, and some people got angry that I would dare to pose for a picture with him, even though I never like said anything, even tacitly endorsing him or whatever. Although I will say, like, I think it's wrong what the United States government and the amount has done to him and the amount of cancellation he's received. Like, I do think that's ridiculous. And I also like gotta say, like, for being a white supremacist or Nazi or whatever, they were super nice to the black guy that I went with. Like, we showed up, and most of the people knew Patriot J, who he was, and they were coming up, giving him hugs, giving him high fives, handshakes. So I don't.
Oh, looks like we lost you there, Reed. I think he was sharing that photo. Yeah, I don't know. I don't really know anything about this Fuentes guy. I've heard his name mentioned, but I've never really looked into him. Or, I'd check that film out. I mean, we watch documentary films about deplorable people all the time. Or people who, Reed's coming back in.
Sorry, I meant to exit out of the picture, and I exited out of the wrong one. So,
yeah. But I mean, I was just saying, when you were out, we watched documentaries about people who are deemed deplorable or who are controversial all the time. I mean, the one about Steve Bannon called American Dharma. I mean, that documentary is amazing. Like, and there's people who think that Bannon's a Nazi, or he calls himself a nationalist, certainly, and he's a controversial figure. But to not even allow a film to be shown, somewhere that's.
So, in response to the outrage I received over taking a picture with him, I am now attempting to get him on my show. That's going to be my apology to everybody for posing for a picture with him. We'll get him on my show. But
you'll have him on the show for a Frost v. Nixon style grilling.
Exactly. By the way, people got to go check out the interview with Alex Stein and Nick Fuentes that just dropped. That is very interesting. And I have not watched like hours and hours of Fuentes, so I don't even 100% know what he believes.
Dude, I don't know anything about him. I've only heard him mentioned, obviously, and his name comes up, and it sparks controversy even in libertarian podcasts and libertarian circles. So I honestly don't know the first thing about him. I just know that he's apparently very controversial. So
yeah, and I certainly disagree with some stuff that I know he has said about immigration and government programs. I mean, I'm frankly, I think I'm technically, at least, I mean, it depends. Right and left, they don't make any sense anymore. But if right versus left is like decentralization and small government versus big government, he's technically more left wing than I am in some ways, because he wants some big government programs that I think would be disastrous, and also, wants a police state to basically remove a ton of Mexican immigrants from the country that I think would be disastrous. So there are things we disagree on, but
he's kind of full fash. He's full fash in some ways.
Yeah, but not like necessarily any more than most Democrats or Republicans are, at least from what I've heard. Like, I guess he makes jokes and stuff, and I've seen clips of him that are not necessarily in context. So I want to get him on and ask him what he really believes, and then I want to
have a conversation with him.
So we'll see if that happens. But
yeah, absolutely. I mean, I remember back in the day, this was pretty based. Like, Jerry Springer used to have on people from the Klan, and then he would have like, people who were against them fighting and talking, and it was just gross, cheap entertainment. But at least they had those people on to expose what they believed, and then make a mockery of them ultimately. But they had them on TV. I mean, now it's like in 2022, everything has to go through through such a filter and such a censorship. I really like that musician there, that black guy. He went on Rogan, and he talks about how he sits down with these racist people and these members of the Klan. He ends up talking to them man to man, and he's been able to convince a bunch of them to give it up and hand over their robes and their hoods. And he's got the hoods like hanging in his house. I think that's a really interesting take on it. I mean, I can't imagine the patience that dude has, and the courage to go do that. He's a controversial figure, but I
think what you do when you censor people is you legitimize them, whether or not their claims are legitimate, right? So, like, if you did not let people talk about rainbows, like why rainbows form, like if it's the sun shining through the water or whatever. Like if you didn't allow people to talk about it, whatever crazy conspiracy theories people would come up with would suddenly be substantiated because you just have not allowed them to discuss why that natural phenomenon happens. So this happens with anything you don't allow people to discuss. And so whenever there's someone who I disagree with on something, I want to talk to them and let them explain their ideas, because for one, I think that's the best way to diffuse stupidity, is let people explain what they think. So, for example, if someone is actually a Nazi, or they say they're a Nazi, and you say, okay, what do you want to do? And then they have to tell you that they want to remove millions of people or kill millions of people, or like, they instantly sound insane, and people are like, wow, I want nothing to do with this guy. But usually you find out that they're just claiming to be one of these things because they're being edgy, but they don't have to actually explain their philosophy and how they're going to fill out their philosophy, because they can't, because they're banned. And so that legitimizes whatever constructs they've come up with, where if you let them talk, they instantly sound moronic. And they also will backpedal a lot because they're like, oh, I can't actually say that.
Yeah,
that's stupid. And so
it deflates them, and it deflates bad ideas.
Exactly. So
yeah,
this whole censorship campaign, not only does it suppress the truth in a lot of situations, but also like the really bad, stupid ideas, it gives them legitimacy that they shouldn't have. So I am all about letting people say whatever they want and air out their dumb ideas, and let them disintegrate, basically.
Yeah, I mean that's how we learn and move on from stuff, or get new information. All right, we got a question here from Fire Pixie. Kind of off topic, but what are your thoughts about Seth Rich? Do you have any thoughts on Seth Rich, Reed?
I don't know nearly enough, so not really.
Yeah, I actually watched something recently. There seemed to have been a series of lawyers, or kind of like right-wing grifters, who were involving themselves in that case and trying to get on good terms with Seth Rich's parents, to be involved in the case and get media attention. I don't think Seth Rich's parents think that he was targeted or assassinated. They think it was just a result of a robbery gone wrong. But there's a lot of other researchers out there who think that Seth Rich was, giving information to WikiLeaks, or in the process of doing that. I haven't looked at too much of it recently, but I think, given his role in the DNC and his proximity to certain campaigns and certain parts of the machinery, it's definitely possible that he knew something, or may have had access to information that was sensitive. So, yeah, I mean, I think he was shot in the back once or twice, and I from what I gather, he didn't pass away right away. He was brought to the hospital, where he later died. Yeah, I mean, it's an unsolved murder down in DC, and there were a lot of cameras down there, and I guess one of the street cameras caught the assailants, and there was like two of them, saw their legs running away from the scene. So I don't know. I don't know. We'd have to have somebody on who knows more about it. I know that Cy Hirsch did some work into it, but I think he's kind of backpedaled a little on that. So I don't know.
What I've heard you say is the most I've ever looked into it. So
yeah, I haven't done too many deep dives into it. All right, let's see another chat here. Bruce Gustafson. Sanctions cause inflation and isolation. The U.S. services PMI fell to 47. Any reading below 50 signifies contraction. Can you possibly imagine my shock?
Yeah, I mean, everything. So there's 2 episodes on my show that I'd love people to go watch. I think it's episode 210 and 212. I don't know. It's right around there. It's right around. I know the one with Peter Schiff is episode 210. And then I did one a couple episodes afterward with, maybe it was a couple before, 209, and I don't remember, whatever. They're right around 210 with Peter Schiff and Clint Russell, and we're talking about the invasion of Ukraine and how that's going to affect the worldwide banking system. and who's going to come out on top, Russia or the United States. So this was 4 or 5 months ago now, maybe. And everything Peter Schiff said has been absolutely true. Like this strengthened ties between Russia and China and weakened the euro and weakened the dollar and strengthened the ruble. Literally the opposite of what you would think we would want. And then I also did one with Ryan Dawson called Corn Pops, Ukrainian Revenge. And he talked a lot about this stuff too, specifically about Russia and how they've been planning for this since the coup in 2014. And they've really diversified their war chest so that they could handle something like this. But the euro is, at least a few days ago, was worth the same amount as the dollar. So it's dropped quite a bit.
Oh, wow. Yeah, that's dramatic.
The ruble is higher than it was before the invasion started. So, yeah, I mean, I don't know what's technically true about anything. It's always just guesswork with me. But I listen to people who have been right in the past. And Peter Schiff's made some mistakes. I'm sure Ryan's made some mistakes too. But, when people are generally correct, they're the ones that I tend to listen to. Because, if they've been right in the past, they'll probably be right in the future. And the same is true for the opposite. Like if people are continuously wrong about everything, maybe you shouldn't listen to them anymore. So,
yeah, maybe we should stop calling them experts. Yeah, that it seems like in the mainstream and on the mainstream media, all these talking heads who just always have dog shit takes and get everything wrong continue to be paid millions of dollars to make these appearances. But I think in a lot of ways that's intentional, honestly. Sure. Yeah, they canceled Chappelle. I think Chappelle, though, at this point it's like, strike me down, I'll become more powerful than you could ever imagine. I mean, come on.
Sure.
Oh, Fire Pixie. Rainbow Frog. Look at that. Rainbow Frog. Imagine Dawson and Emmerich together doing in a cage match.
4 Horsemen with Alex Jones. It's got to happen eventually. I mean, the gods demand it,
we have to.
So Burmese is the first step, which I think we could do. Like both of them have said, both Ryan and Jason have said they would do it. Mm-hmm. And they've both just had comments about how, the other guy won't actually end up doing it. Well, you guys have both said you'll do it. So let's just make it happen. And if it turns into an ugly boxing match, like whatever, too bad. But I'd love to see it either way.
I was going to say, too, we could try and moderate it. I mean, we could, one of us could be the omnipotent mute. We could have a mute button.
And if someone starts spurging out on the other, I'll just
hitting the bell too much. Yeah. Well, we're friends with both of those fellows, so I'm never in the business of slagging anybody. Ryan has certainly attacked Jason many times, and that's his prerogative. He's allowed to do that, and Burmese knows who he is. But yeah, I mean, I was going to invite Burmese on my show soon again for a stream, so I can mention it to him again, but it would be cool to see a lively, real debate about issues within not just 9/11, but whatever field of research. But I think it would probably be mostly 9/11.
Well, I would say this to Ryan, just like I said about censorship, how you legitimize those claims or whatever. Like if Ryan and Burmese sit down, because I do agree with Ryan that a plane hit the Pentagon and that Flight 11 and 175 hit the Twin Towers. If he just lets Jason explain his theory and then just replies calmly and dismantles it, I think that's the most effective way to establish the truth instead of, this headbutting. So I say, let it happen,
Yeah. Instead of name calling, I don't personally like to do name calling, especially, people. I disagree with best friends sometimes about stuff, and it doesn't devolve into name calling. So
exactly.
I don't know. Stay tuned, guys. Maybe we're
going to make it happen. It's going to happen. I mean, we've done crazy things on the 4 Horsemen. So
I know, and the potential is through the roof. Daryl Davis, yes, that's the name of the fellow, the musician who sits down with the
with the Ku Klux Klan guys.
He gets their hoods. Yeah, he's got quite a story, man. He's quite a guy. Yeah. I guess the big announcement for Jackman Radio this upcoming Monday, we are having Congressman Ron Paul on the podcast, and I couldn't be more excited and more honored. And it's been a long time coming. So that's going to be a great stream. So I hope everybody tunes into that.
Nobody deserves it more than you guys, too. You guys are OG supporters from back in 2007.
Oh, thanks, man.
You guys, I mean, I have sort of had what I would call maybe an unfair rise to fame. Like it's almost more who you know than what you know. And I've learned a lot, don't get me wrong, but I was kind of snatched out of nowhere and brought up into the limelight. And you guys have been hustling for more than a decade. So you guys really deserve this. And I'm looking forward to it.
Thanks. I appreciate that. But no, don't sell yourself short, Reed. You've been grinding and shining, man. You've been putting it out there, man. You got what, 230 episodes or 40 or 50 at this point? Like,
yeah, 237 as of yesterday with Robbie Martin. Man. By the way, go check that out. Especially if you're a DeSantis stan, you won't be happy with what you hear, but definitely go check it out.
I love when Robbie's just like, whether or not like DeSantis is like an agent or some kind of like CIA op or whatever, and he could be like, maybe he's not, but it's like, where did he come from? When Robbie kind of posits, when he kind of puts.
Yeah, I feel good when I ask him a question where he says like, I don't really know the answer to that. It feels good because it's like, you've got him wondering too. So
yeah, together we're going to put all the pieces together. I mean, Robbie's done some amazing research.
Oh yeah.
Another comment here from Bruce. I just want sovereignty, access to my money, and no New World Order social credit score. Not a donkey or an elephant voter, and I just want to be left alone. Amen, Bruce.
Want, man, right there.
Amen, dude. I couldn't agree with you more, man. And I've got friends and family and people that I deeply care about who are very, very much on the left and very, very much on the right. And oftentimes I'll try to subtly kind of pepper in things about how both parties really suck and they've failed our country and they've brought us to the point where we are now with over 30 trillion in debt, awful inflation, nonstop unwinnable wars. So I don't know. Who knows what it's going to take, but that's a great summary of it. Another one here from Carmen. And Reed really listens. Some people listen just to talk. Active listening, it's called. You're very good at that, Reed. And you when you can retain something and bring it up in a later conversation.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Well, I mean, there's plenty of people talking, so I try to bring the best minds together. But I mean, I really think like Liberty Uniter, there are a lot of people that I don't have any interest in anymore, but that is kind of my goal. Like, I think people like Abby Martin have a lot of really important, good research. People like Ryan, people like Adam Fitzgerald, people like Scott Horton, Dave Smith.
Yeah.
Just bring all these ideas together on my show where you can hear from them. Because, there's so much partisanship where it's just liberty voices or just left-wing voices or just right-wing voices. I want the best from all three and just, hear those ideas. So.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, there's a lot to be gleaned and learned from all of those sources. And, we're having Ron Paul on Monday, and there's been other candidates I've supported that have disagreed with Ron Paul on a number of issues. But on the big issues, when it comes to monetary policy and, of course, foreign policy, which has always been my personal biggest issue, I always gravitate towards a candidate who's really anti-war and really just a genuine person. It's like when you and Robbie were talking about Dennis Kucinich yesterday. I liked Dennis a lot when he ran. We did some stuff with him, and I don't think we interviewed him, but we certainly sat down. I had dinners with him and talked to him off the record, talked to him a lot about 9/11 and about our foreign policy. So he's very hip to all that stuff. And he was supposed to do hearings, but I don't think he ever did. But one of his parting shots was introducing impeachment articles against Bush and Cheney, which I thought was pretty based.
Yeah.
But you don't really see much of an anti-war left-wing presence anymore, like Robbie was saying on your show.
At least it's depressing. But
yeah, it is. All right.
I mean, Mike, when based Q Mommy is one of the best voices in Congress against war, like,
dude,
so far in our own end zone,
Yeah, have you met Marjorie Taylor Greene?
I haven't. I want to, though. I mean,
Eric did.
I know Robbie would disagree with me on this, but I am a fan because I think even though she is out to lunch on some stuff like Israel and China, I think she's actually pretty good on Saudi Arabia, though. I haven't heard her talk about Iran. I don't know where she is on that. But she did vote to end the war in Yemen last year, I think. I don't know if she's co-signed on the latest war powers resolution in Congress. I hope she has, but she's someone who I look at kind of like Tulsi. Like, she's not all the way there on the war stuff, but she's pretty far along the way, like definitely better than everybody else. And I feel like the way she makes people think is a positive overall. Like, I think the impact Tulsi Gabbard has had on America has been a net good, right? Like, I think most of the stuff she talked about has pushed people in the right direction. I think the same thing about Marjorie Taylor Greene. Like, even though she has some wacko opinions on a couple of things, she in general pushes people in the right direction. So I'm interested and I feel like she's gotten better too, like just over the 2 years, not even 2 years she's been in Congress. So I'm all about encouraging people like that in the right direction. So
if she's to be the vessel, Reed, so be it. Let's get the best information to her. And I mean, she's not afraid to really mix things up and speak out on a number of issues. And like you said, there's some stuff that I think she's way off the reservation, but God, if there's a real person in Congress who's actually, raising these issues and willing to go there, then I think that's a good thing, regardless of what party it is. But I think we're seeing that now more on the right. We're seeing people who are on the right who are the ones who are actually standing up for your everyday regular person, and it's very bizarre. It's very bizarre.
I mean, Thomas Massey is the shining North Star of liberty. Like, if they could all be like Thomas Massey, we'd be in good shape, but
I know
we're not. So we'll take whatever wins we can here and there. So
yeah, exactly. You got to celebrate the what is it? Celebrate the white pills. Is that
exactly
what Eric and Ryan say? Yeah, Jacqueline Radio, Coverdale, Fitzgerald, Dawson. Thank you, IB Denmark.
Trust right there.
Yeah, we appreciate your support. DeSantis is good for Florida, but he's loyal to the counterfeit state of the Rothschilds and shouldn't be POTUS. Yeah, there seems to be some questions about his, where he is with foreign policy in that regard. But
I don't think there's many questions, actually. And by the way, it's not just that he's a Zionist. Like, yeah, that's obviously a big red flag, but he has been pro-regime change in Cuba, pro-regime change in Venezuela. Like, pretty much every South American country, he's wanted to have the CIA overthrow the government. The only intervention that I think he was sort of based on was Syria. I remember there's a video clip I've seen of him back in like 2013 or something saying, like, we don't really know who these people are that were arming against Assad, so probably shouldn't be doing that, which, he's right. But he might have capitulated on that. I don't actually know how he ended up voting, but he's been horrible on everything. Like, everything related to foreign policy, pretty much. He's awful on China. He's awful on Israel, Saudi Arabia, even Ukraine. Like, at least at the beginning, he was saying we need to make Putin hurt at the gas pump, at the beginning of that whole thing. I think he's realized a lot of his base is not for this war, so he's kind of stayed silent on it. But where his allegiances lie.
Right, ultimately.
Pro-national security apparatus, pro-Patriot Act. I mean, he worked for,
SEALs.
Yeah, and Gitmo. He worked at Gitmo for a while, and
that's ghoulish.
He's friends with a ton of neocons. He's a big supporter of George W. Bush. So I don't know. Like, I'm just saying, like, he's no ally of mine on most things. Like, he was sort of good on one thing. And I appreciate him for the chaos he provides, like when he won't send any National Guard troops to the State of the Union address, stuff like that. Like, I love it and then he threatened to kick OSHA out of Florida when the vaccine mandate thing was happening. Like, that type of stuff, I love it. But vast majority of his policies, I do not look at as pro-liberty, and definitely don't want him to be president. I would take an incompetent mess like Brandon over an exciting, exuberant, well put together neocon who can make people believe in the empire again. That's not really the direction I think we need to go in.
Love it. Dude, you just summed it up. He's basically just another military industrial complex performer and frontman.
I mean, he is the right wing Obama. Like, he is so many people on the right and even in libertarian circles are falling for him because he was right on one issue. When if you look at his record, it's like this guy sucks. It's the same thing with Obama. If you looked at Obama's record in 2008, you would have known he's not actually anti-war. Like he was good on the Iraq War, sort of. He once voted.
He gave a speech
unilaterally go into Iraq in 2003. But aside from that, he was no good, and people would have known that if they looked into him. But instead, a bunch of Democrats and progressives fell for him head over heels. The same thing is happening with DeSantis and a bunch of Republicans and libertarians. So just trying to ring the alarm bell because he's not your friend.
You know, you're probably right about all of it, Reed. And if he does get in there, we're going to see awful shit happen, and it's just gonna be the case.
Yeah, I mean,
it's just gonna be the same.
Yeah, exactly. It's not like, I mean, it would suck, but at the same time, it's like, I mean, is it really that much worse than it is now? You know, like it's just we never win anything. So
who's steering the ship right now, man? I don't know. Yeah, it's Brandon is. That's just elderly abuse, man. I feel bad. Like I've almost forgotten how much of a gangster Biden is because he's like Mr. Magoo or Leslie Nielsen in Naked Gun. You know, he's just. Ooh, I don't know. This could be the thing that the cancer and COVID thing could be the off ramp for them to get him off the ticket for 24. You know, if I may sound a little conspiratorial for a second here, Reed, if you grant me that, I think they might try to give him the boot, and they might try and bring in the Jamaican Indian on the top of the ticket. They might give her the boot too, though, and they might want to bring in Buttigieg, his boot.
Well, the thing is, like, Marco Rubio is not that much different than DeSantis if you look at them on a strict policy level. You know, like DeSantis is the perfect candidate for the populist neocons because he is everything good about Trump from their perspective without the drawbacks. Like, he doesn't say stupid shit, but he still has that kind of tough guy, like, bravado that Trump has. And he's a bit of a bully, you know, like, which I like, actually. See, it's funny because everything people hate, everything that the mainstream hates about DeSantis, I love. And same with Trump. And same with January 6th. Like, all three of those things, the mainstream outcry about all three of those, it's like, what are you talking about? Those are the only good things about those three things. But, you know, there are, like, serious issues with him that I have, just like with Trump. You know, like, I loved when he would call someone a fat pig or, like, you know, just say some ridiculous thing on Twitter. That was what I lived for. It was the fact that he, you know, bent over and grabbed his ankles for bin Salman and, you know, almost took us to war with Iran. Yeah, that was the type of stuff where I was like, dude, fuck you. But I don't know. So
yeah, he had mean tweets. He said mean things. Look, there's a lot of things I could say about you, but I'm not going to say it. I've been very nice up to this point, but maybe going forward, I might not be so nice.
Frankly, you know? I don't have time to be politically correct.
That's when he won, dude, when she asked him the question about calling women dogs, fat, ugly, and disgusting. And he was like, only Rosie O'Donnell. That's the moment that he actually won. I remember
she was bleeding out of her eyes. She was bleeding out of her ears. Wherever.
All right. So we're coming up on about an hour, Reed. I wanted you to plug the upcoming Four Horsemen. We didn't go into it too much. Did we at the beginning yet? Or who you having on? What are we going to be talking about?
So Sunday, I think at 3, I'm going to be doing a live stream with Jason Rink and Patriot J, just kind of recapping the Fuentes thing. I titled it "Gay Groypers" because that was the takeaway I got, that these are a bunch of celibate, church-going young men uncomfortable with their sexuality. That was the vibe I got. So I'm going to talk about that with them. And then at 8 p.m. Eastern time, we're having Jeremy Kaufman on the 17th installment of the Four Horsemen. We're going to make the nukes gay. We're going to talk about libertarian Zionism. If the Jews can have their own country, libertarians can have their own state. So we're going to, talk about how all the libertarians need their right of return to New Hampshire, move up to the free state, help us, secure the realm. And then also Eric's the only one who hasn't been put on the Southern Poverty Law Center's hate watch list yet. So he's got to work on that. But me, Ryan, and Kaufman are all on there, so we'll probably talk about that, and then we'll talk about Odyssey, because that's obviously given Ryan a huge platform, and Jeremy Kaufman is the creator of Library, the company that I think still owns Odyssey, or I can't remember and he's been in a lawsuit this week. He's been at court, an SEC lawsuit with Library, and I forget who he's fighting against, but we'll be talking about all that shit, so it's gonna be super interesting. Definitely tune in for that. And if you're in New Hampshire, if you ever get any sort of like polling phone call from anyone and they ask you who you're voting for, say Jeremy Kaufman, Libertarian for U.S. Senate. So definitely check it out.
Excellent. Good stuff. Well, there you have it, folks. Happy Friday. Reed Coverdale from the Naturalist Capitalist and the Four Horsemen. We will see you guys soon. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and share. And ding our reminder bell. Ding. And we will talk to you all soon. Peace.